Indiana, start your engines. Join us from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for our Emmy Award-winning Business at the Brickyard, presented by LiUNA. All month long, we'll bring you exclusive interviews, features, and a behind-the-scenes look at how the business of motorsports and racing drive the Indiana economy. Business at the Brickyard. It's front row access you won't want to miss.
Into the hands of Gould. Back underneath. Goals! And to break the silence!
Taylor University students dressed in all kinds of costumes wait for that moment every year around Christmas time. Quiet until the Trojan basketball team puts 10 on the board. Then they let loose. It's all part of a tradition at Taylor called Silent Night, a small but mighty private Indiana college. On this week's Business and Beyond, presented by PNC, we learn much more about Taylor University, its mission, growth, and a multi-million-dollar fundraising campaign to connect with the small town of Upland. Join us for a conversation with Taylor University President, Dr. Michael Lindsay. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by the 18th president at Taylor University in Upland, Indiana, Dr. Michael Lindsay. And Michael, really great to have you on the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Taylor, I mean, many people in Indiana know of Taylor, have heard of Taylor, but I think they might be surprised at how long Taylor has been around. That's an institution with some staying power.
1846. Yeah, we're grateful to have been in it for the long haul.
Yeah, lots to talk about, Michael. I look forward to getting into that. But the first thing I've got to ask you about is Silent Night. And a number of people listening may be aware of that. It's become a national, maybe a global phenomenon with students there at a basketball game around Christmas. Set this thing up for people who may not know about Silent Night. I think it started maybe in the late 70s, but has really grown into something that gets tremendous attention.
It's the last home basketball game before Christmas. Students dress up in different costumes based on their residence hall, which can be quite elaborate. I think the favorite costumes I ever had is a whole wing of women in Olson Hall dressed up as my wife, which was a lot of fun. And they come for a lot of fun and great spirit. The crowd is silent until Taylor scores the 10th point, and then they go crazy. The students rush the court. We get 2 technicals, but it's a lot of fun. And then at the end of the game, we all lock arms and we sing Silent Night. It's gotten amazing attention in the past year. It's been featured on ABC World News Tonight, on NBC Nightly News, The Today Show, CBS This Morning. It's on SportsCenter every year, and global media have picked it up as well. I think it's becoming known as one of the very best collegiate basketball traditions, and it started here at Taylor.
That's very cool. Very cool. Do you get people who contact you or potential students, who maybe saw that it attracted them to Taylor?
It's amazing marketing for the university. Absolutely. Every year we have people who have no connection with Taylor whatsoever. They didn't go here. They don't have kids that went here, but they want to come to the game. They're the hottest ticket in town. And we also love it. It's a non-conference game, but we always have teams that say they want to come and play us because it's a great tradition. And we're always excited because we typically do quite well in the game.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Michael, give us the thumbnail description of Taylor University and what makes Taylor, in your view, unique in today's higher education landscape.
Taylor University is a Christian liberal arts university located about halfway between Indianapolis and Fort Wayne, right off of I-69. And we welcome students from around the country and really around the world. We have probably 3,500 students total, those on campus, but also those students who are digital learners. We have graduate offerings, everything up to a PhD in leadership, to include undergraduate and graduate programs, as well as a lot of dual enrollment programs. We just launched a great opportunity with 5 other faith-based universities in Indiana in partnership with the Indiana Department of Education called the Professional Pathways Credential. So high school students can earn 30 academic credits and get a credential before they even come to college. So it's a great time. We've been growing by leaps and bounds. I think Taylor may be the fastest growing nationally ranked university in the country. So our overall enrollment has increased by 45% over the last 5 years. And we've done that while increasing the academic profile. The average incoming high school GPA of our freshman class is a 3.9. And
Wow.
we've got more mission appropriate students than ever. So we're recruiting an amazing class, and we're very fortunate to have terrific yield. We've had a waiting list in the past, and my guess is that we will probably have a waiting list again this year as well.
Wow. 3.9. I don't think I would have been I know I would not have been getting into Taylor back in the day.
We're
But
grateful for wonderful students who want to come and be part of our community.
I'll bet. Yeah, that is impressive. But as you talk about growth, and I find that really fascinating, enrollment cliffs, rising costs, all kinds of challenges facing higher education in general, small private universities in particular. How are you apparently kind of bucking the trend?
Well, those are certainly realities that we have to deal with, but the only way you grow in this environment is by increasing market share. So, how are we doing that? It's through academic innovation, new academic programs. So, as you add new academic programs that people want, it has a way of drawing them in. And then, if you have a reputation for quality, they see this is the kind of degree that will serve me well. We're very proud of the fact that 99% of our graduates are either working or in graduate school in their chosen field within 6 months of graduation. That
Wow.
puts us in the very, very elite strata of American higher education. This past year, our retention rate of returning students was 94%. Jerry, just to give you context, that puts us on par with about half of the Ivy League. So there's a real commitment to quality. So we have new academic programs, and then we love the students once they get here, and they're succeeding by the time that they graduate.
It's again, back to my original question about, the challenges facing, higher education. The things you're talking about doing, probably university presidents didn't really think about or have to think about maybe 10, 15 years ago. It's a different job now, right?
It is definitely a different job. So not only do you have to constantly be on the leading edge of innovation in the field, so new academic programs we've launched, for example, in nursing, in physician assistant studies, but also expanding opportunities in fields that students are really interested in business, in finance, and engineering. So part of my job is to encourage our faculty to think creatively about new academic programs and then to help secure the resources to be able to launch those. So we've been in a season where we've had remarkable generosity. Our donors have come alongside us and just been unbelievably generous. And we're currently in the midst of what is the largest fundraising campaign for any school our size and our kind of institution in history. And we're making great progress on it.
As you look at balance and staying true to that Christian mission while doing the things you're talking about there and competing in an ultra competitive environment, how do you do that? How do you balance those things as you go about your efforts there at Taylor?
Well, you have to have clarity. So we say that Taylor aspires to be the most Christ-centered, student-focused university in the world. And once you've marked that out and said those two things really matter, then you recruit people who agree with that mission and are deeply committed to it. I'm very fortunate that the amazing results that we've seen at Taylor in the last 5 years are really a direct result of the quality of our faculty and staff. Our employee engagement is through the roof, 85% employee engagement, putting us on par with some of the very best workplaces in the world. We didn't start that way, so we had a long way to go, but we've made really great progress. And because we've had this upsurge of philanthropy, that's also really helped us to stay true to our mission. So people are saying, hey, we see what's happening at Taylor and we want to invest. So we just celebrated crossing over the $425 million mark of fundraising toward a $500 million campaign. And just to put that in context,
Wow.
our previous largest campaign in history, less than $100 million. And nationwide of schools that are our peers, the largest campaign ever done with a peer institution was about 260 million. So we've already eclipsed that and we're just getting started.
What's the biggest, in your view, the biggest misconception that people may have about smaller faith-based institutions?
I think a lot of people assume that there's not academic quality that occurs here. And I just have to say, I completely disagree with that looking at the Taylor context. So I did my graduate work at Princeton and Oxford. I taught at Rice University. I'm quite familiar with high academic standards and the kind of academic experiences that our students have. I taught undergraduates at Rice, at Princeton, and now here at Taylor. I taught a class this past fall, and I can just say the quality of the academic work that my students completed and the expectations I had for them was on par with the kind of experiences that my Princeton undergrads had. So you can find really amazing quality at a school like Taylor.
What attracted you? You mentioned some very high profile, nationally, globally recognized institutions there. What attracted you to Taylor and Upland, Indiana?
I think there's three things we've got going for us that are a real draw. Number one, Taylor's had a long legacy of being faithful to our Christian identity. So I wanted to be at a place that aligns with my faith. We believe that faith grows in the best in the context of wider faith. And this is a place that's been faithful for 180 years. So I was looking for that. Two is that, I have a real commitment to excellence and quality. And so I wanted a place that not only was good in the classroom and had great academic outcomes, but also valued excellence in athletics. So our baseball team is number one in the country. Our men's and women's basketball team had the very best season they've had in over 20 years. Similar kind of experiences in football and lacrosse. So quality is a key part of what we do here at Taylor, and I was drawn to that. And then third and finally, I love the people here. Indiana is filled with warm and welcoming people, and Taylor exudes that. So if you step on our campus, you feel the vibrancy and the energy of an active campus community, but also Hoosier hospitality better than anybody around.
As you look at preparing students, and you kind of touched on this a moment ago, but preparing students not just for that first job, but for a career, is that part of the thought process as you look at curriculum and those types of things there at Taylor?
Absolutely. A majority of the average freshman, I think it's two-thirds of the freshmen in college today, will work in fields that at this moment have not yet been invented. Two-thirds of them. We didn't even know what a social media manager was 10 years ago. And now every organization has somebody doing that. They may have entire teams doing that. Artificial intelligence is going to change higher education and the workforce like the internet changed the workforce and higher education. So we've got to be on the leading edge, which is why I'm really grateful. Indiana is staking out a claim and saying, hey, we want to find the right way to use AI in all the helpful ways and to avoid the harmful effects. And you can do it if you're purposeful and intentional. And that's what we're committed to doing at Taylor.
Yeah, yeah. Talk because I was going to ask you about technology, in particular AI, because that is just transforming everything we do. Certainly in the business world, but our daily lives. How is artificial intelligence impacting what you do at Taylor on the student side, but just also running the university?
Well, clearly, using artificial intelligence to help us with infrastructure operations, we're trying to find efficiencies everywhere we can. And so we're looking at that. Our data analytics is much stronger, much nimbler, and it happens to us in real time. AI makes all of that possible. So we're really grateful, and that affects everything from marketing to recruitment to raising the profile, externally. But in education, what you have to do, it is possible in higher education today that you can have instructors using AI to develop quizzes and tests and lectures and content, and students can use AI to generate answers to those quizzes and tests. And so you could have an environment where you've got AI speaking from the instructional side and AI speaking from the student side, and the people are completely missing. That's not an education. So what we've got to do is to figure out how do both professors and students harness the ability of AI and use it effectively. Our students are absolutely going to have to understand how to use AI. What we're experiencing today is what we saw, frankly, with the explosion of personal computing and, frankly, internet applications in the 1990s. So early in my career, I was a computer trainer. I worked with the buyers of Neiman Marcus in Dallas, Texas, teaching them how do you design a spreadsheet in Excel or a PowerPoint presentation because they were too young to retire, but they were too old to having learned these things in college. I learned it in college, but they didn't. And so there was a whole generation of junior staffers in the 1990s who came alongside and helped some of their older colleagues to learn how to do this. They were like translators. They were bilingual. They could both speak analog and digital. We need the same thing for the next generation of students who will graduate with AI proficiencies. So our students at Taylor are learning how to use AI in research, in brainstorming ideas, maybe even in editing academic work. But the idea is yours and the actual contribution is yours. So how do you use it thoughtfully, with integrity and with ethics? If our graduates can do that, then they'll be able to go and get a job, let's say working for Republic Airways or working for Lilly. And because of that, they will be equipped to say, hey, I can come alongside my other colleagues who have not used AI and show them how to do it in bridging that gap. That's what I think the next 5 to 7 years, every college graduate is going to find themselves entering a workforce where there are going to be some colleagues that say, hey, can you help me do that? I never had to do that before. That's how AI is going to change not only higher education, but the wider working world.
Yeah. Given that, do you see certain majors there at Taylor that are particularly hot or particularly, of interest, and you see real opportunity there?
Well, let me say, I'm a big believer in the liberal arts. I think leaders of every generation have a broad based understanding. You get a job because you did a particular job really well and you get promoted, but then you move up and you have a much more general approach. So you got to have that broad perspective. So we believe deeply in the value of liberal arts. And I think that's going to be true for another 50, 100 years. But you also need professional competencies and experiences. So business, finance, accounting, those things are really key. Also, computer science, data analytics, those matter a great deal. And then health professions have been areas of real growth. Probably those are the three big centers of gravity grounded in a good liberal arts understanding as well.
Traditionally, the relationship between colleges and college towns has not necessarily been the best over the course of time. That's kind of a general observation. But at Taylor and Upland, you're kind of blowing that out of the water, too. We're going to talk about that when we come back after the break. A major initiative, the Main Street Mile initiative, very ambitious, unique, and perhaps could be a model for other places around the country. We'll talk about that and much more when the Business and Beyond podcast returns.
As a bank, PNC prides itself on being boring. But the truth is they couldn't be more excited to serve the dynamic Indianapolis community. For nearly 160 years, they've quietly toiled away to deliver brilliant results for their equally brilliant clients. They have dedicated PNC teams throughout the local area all ready to do the boring work to help you unlock your own brilliance. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. PNC Bank, National Association member FDIC.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America are men and women building roads and bridges to get Hoosiers where they're going today and a new energy infrastructure that will keep Indiana competitive tomorrow. LIUNA's over 12,000 statewide members also grow local economies, earning good union wages, shopping where they live and work, and paying taxes. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is the president, the 18th president at Taylor University in Upland, Dr. Michael Lindsay. And Michael, a fascinating first part of the podcast, you kind of laid out the vision at Taylor, and so impressive the growth you talk about. Doing things a different way, I think, different than a traditional way. And I think one of the things, as I mentioned going into the break, is that the relationship, kind of that town-gown relationship, typically is not necessarily the best at a lot of places around the country. You're taking a very different approach at Taylor University with Upland, Indiana. They're a major initiative, $100 million effort, the Main Street Mile initiative, which better connects Taylor to the town. Talk about the overall initiative and what it's all about.
Main Street Mile Initiative is really born out of our strategic plan that said we want to be a blessing to the community where we serve. Research one institutions like Purdue, IU, Notre Dame have a long legacy of making economic and community development a centerpiece of what they're trying to do for the university's future. But smaller schools have not always done that. Mm-hmm. But we had a number of our alumni and our friends and neighbors and even our faculty and staff and students who said, we've got a role to play here in this small town. Upland only has about 750 households, a few thousand people, but we've been here for a long time. And our people said, how could we be a blessing to try and help serve our friends and neighbors in the community? There's 1 mile of Main Street that connects downtown Upland with our campus. And so we developed a program called the Main Street Mile Initiative that would be an economic community revitalization program in downtown Upland that would include a mixed-use development, a renovation to our town library, which gets amazing circulation, and even putting in a destination restaurant. Then combine that with a development closer to our campus, which will be a hospitality node that would be anchored by a new collegiate inn, guest cottages, and an active adult community. And then combine that with a whole host of things that are separate from that 100 million, but are complementary of development that's happening here on campus. And the idea is to try and revitalize this community and to be a source of economic renewal for the area. We've been very fortunate to help the town in developing opportunities and drawing some of our alumni and donors into the equation. And it's been super exciting. The goal is $100 million for Upland. And at this point, we've secured 95% of that. So we're 95 million to 100 million, and we'll get the last 5 million, I'm confident. It's also part of the larger Life to the Full campaign that we're doing, which is an overall $500 million goal. So 20% of the money that we're raising in that campaign is going directly to benefit our community, not our campus. I don't know of another college or university that's committed 20% of their fundraising to just try and help their friends and neighbors, but we take seriously the encouragement to seek the peace and the prosperity of the place where God's placed us.
That is those are amazing numbers. And again, the $100 million for the Main Street Mile initiative, 30 million comes from Lilly Endowment and their statewide campaign, which they're doing at a number of universities. That's a big chunk of money there. But the fact you're raising an additional 70 on top of that just for that initiative is quite impressive.
Yeah, it's a combination of grants and private investments and helping us to build some wider support. The university is putting some resources in it as well. It's been great. We've got a great working relationship with the town of Upland. So the Princeton Review does a survey of all college students around the country. And this year, Taylor students said they love Upland so much. We were ranked #1 in the nation for town gown relations. And because that's born out of our own student surveys, we think it's a really good sign of a positive energy that we feel here at Taylor and trying to be a blessing to Upland. And of course, we feel the love and support of our local town as well.
Yeah, and a big part, maybe the anchor piece of that development as we're taping this podcast right now is a couple of days away. You're going to be breaking ground for a hospitality investment, right?
That's right, a collegiate inn, which we're really excited about. That's probably the most exciting front for the hospitality business right now is universities getting a inn nearby so that alumni, parents, visitors have a place to stay when they come close to campus. And, our alumni are super engaged. Our alumni giving rate is about double the national average, and it's just been going up significantly in recent days. So many of our alums say, hey, when I come back to campus, I want a place to stay. So we're looking forward to breaking ground on that, and it will be up and running in less than 2 years, and it'll be a way in which we can showcase the kind of Hoosier hospitality we've come to love and appreciate about the Taylor experience.
You think this model, and again, the endowment is funding some similar efforts at other places, but it seems as though at Taylor you've really embraced it and taken the ball and run with it. But can this be a model for other places, maybe universities and communities around the country?
Yeah, there are a few places that are the size of Taylor that have done this. Colgate University in upstate New York has done it. Colby College in Waterville, Maine has done it. Swanee, the University of South in Tennessee, has done it. But I can name them on one hand. So we're really sort of helping to show a model of how if you are able to work with a philanthropic partner, and Lilly Endowment has done so many good things across the state of Indiana, but this is another example of how forward-thinking they have been. They catalyzed a whole economic development movement in a small town that in some ways had been forgotten for a lot of places. And we're seeing that it's a model. We think that when this is all said and done, we will have invested $250 million within 3 square miles within less than 8 years' time in a community of, let's call it 750 households. I don't think there's any other place in the country that has experienced that. And we're hoping that many more people will come. Every month, I welcome teams of university leadership teams that want to see what we're doing. I think there's going to be even more of that in the days ahead.
Yeah, talk about, you mentioned it just there, but Upland is a small rural community. So the impact that you're having is especially significant because so many smaller towns around Indiana unfortunately, have faced real challenges. And as you mentioned, maybe some feel forgotten or have kind of lost hope in many respects. But the amount of money and the connection you're putting into a small rural community, maybe the impact there is even greater than it might be at other places.
Absolutely. It's having an outsized impact. And really, it's riding on the coattails of goodwill relationships between the town and the gown, between the university and our hometown for decades. But I would say the key thing here is that you just start by small little acts of love and service. So our students have been serving our friends and neighbors for decades. And so it was natural when we said, "Hey, what do you think we ought to do in our next strategic plan?" So many of them said, "Let's do something to bless our hometown." And I think that that same kind of sentiment can be found on hundreds of college campuses across the US. If we could just find a way to unleash some of that sort of entrepreneurial energy of our students to be a blessing to their hometowns, I think there'd be a lot of goodwill that could be generated.
Talk a little bit about Michael Lindsay and your background. You mentioned undergrad at Princeton and some of the stops you have made in higher education. But let's go way back. And where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. My mom was head of an independent school, so education's been in my blood for a long time. My dad was president of PGA of America in the golf business. So we lived in Jackson, Mississippi, but he officed out of West Palm Beach, Florida.
Wow.
And he's one of the world's leading expert on the rules of golf. So when I was a kid, we would get phone calls in the middle of the night from a tournament in Japan or Australia, and they'd ask about an unusual ruling. And then my dad was a color commentator for many of the major events like the PGA Championship or the Ryder Cup. When they had an unusual ruling, he'd get on TV and sort of describe it while they were killing the airtime. That's where I grew up. I did my undergraduate at Baylor, met my wife there. She's originally from Texas. Then we moved to Princeton, New Jersey. I worked for the Gallup poll and worked with George Gallup, particularly around public opinion polling as it relates to matters of faith. Worked on a couple of book projects, had a fellowship to go to Oxford and did a degree over there. Moved back to Princeton, continued working with Mr. Gallup and did my PhD in sociology at Princeton University. I taught at Rice for 5 years in Houston. Our twin daughters were born there and then moved to Boston. And I was president of Gordon College there for a decade. And now I've been in Indiana for 5 years, serving as president of Taylor. And I love my job. I love being here.
Oh, great. We're fortunate to have you. Okay, I've got to ask you now. Give me your background. What's your handicap?
Yeah, I don't play golf. I just cheer on the golfers and love to go hang out and drive the cart.
Yeah, that's good. What got you and maybe your parents or your mom, but kind of steered toward education and ultimately higher education?
I'd always been a good student and I had just a transformational experience in college. I was deeply shaped by my professors and by those administrators that worked at the university. And so I kind of had an interest in that. And as I continued with graduate school, I became more interested in opportunities, more interested in the opportunity to give back to the next generation. And then while I was on the faculty at Rice, I had a couple of opportunities to work with the university administration, and I liked it and found that I had some skill and ability in it. The best part of my job is that I get to work with thousands of students at the very critical moments where they're making really big decisions. So I lift weights with a guy named Dawson, who is a football player. And, while we're lifting, Dawson and I get to talk about he's getting married this summer. He's been working on landing his first job. So I'm getting a chance to speak into his life in a particular moment. And that's a very if I can say it's a precious gift to be able to sort of help a young person get started in the right way. And he's inspiring to me, encouraging, and I get a chance to do that every single day. I have the best job in America. I love it.
What's your favorite part of the job?
It's hanging out with the students. I just love the opportunity. And Taylor's a remarkable place. So we've had unbelievable results. And I'll say, I've been a college president for 15 years. I've never seen the kind of momentum we're experiencing at Taylor. It's not about me. It's the people here and frankly, the blessing of God. I'm just glad to be in the seat where we're seeing all these good things happen.
Okay, if we're having this conversation, Michael, 5 years from now, what has to be true for you to say we got it right?
I think I would say that the very three things that brought me to Taylor, I want that to be true 5 years from now, but to even more measure. So I want our Christian faith to be front and center. I want us to be known as authentic people of faith who are a real blessing to their friends and neighbors. I want to have a deeper commitment to quality that gets recognized nationwide and even around the globe. I want people to say Taylor's the kind of place that educates young people to have significant impact in their fields. And I want to do a place where we have lots of fun. I want Silent Night to be bigger and better than it is this year. 5 years from now, I want to blow it up even more.
How about for the community, for Upland? Because obviously you're embarking in the midst of this major initiative. What do you foresee or what do you hope for Upland to become as part of that?
Certainly, we're hoping that this $100 million investment is catalytic and produces a lot of good energy. I think that there's a real opportunity to become, if I could just even say, sort of a national model of how a university and a small town work together for economic and community development. So I would love 5 years from now for Taylor to be recognized as a place that helped catalyze the renewal of Upland and to show the way that how small towns can reinvent themselves to be a greater force for the common good.
Well, Dr. Michael Lindsay, I tell you, are an impressive guy, and you got a lot of energy, and you've got a lot of great ideas, and you're putting them to work at Taylor University. That's having impact at the school, obviously, but also in the greater community. So it's been a real treat to find out what's going on there on campus and beyond. Appreciate you taking the time so much, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much for having me on.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. We are a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Curious about what's shaping law in Indiana? From court reforms and NIL rights to mental health courts and energy commissions, the Indiana Lawyer Podcast breaks down the biggest legal issues of our time. I'm your host, reporter Maura Johnson. Join me every other week for your insider guide to what matters in law and why it impacts you. Subscribe now in your favorite podcast app or at ibjpodcasts.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.